All right, let's dive in. Can everybody see this?
Looks good.
Okay, great. So the first most important thing when you are selling a listing is you must tell the story of the home. So I want you all to go through your MLS and just see how many times do you go in and you see this property is amazing. It has this number of bedrooms, this number of baths, blah, blah. I don't need to know that. I can find that information as a consumer on Zillow, on Realtor, on Trulia, on one of the multiple firm sites that are sent to me. I don't need to read that in the actual description itself. So do not utilize your precious characters to actually share what number, bedroom, bath, square footage is. I want you all to tell the story of the home. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, I want you all to walk into a home, and every single home is like a person. It has its own personality and it tells its own story. It has its own energy. So when you go through that home and you see the exterior, you see the interior, you see every single thing that makes up that property, I want you to walk through and I literally want you to brain dump. How does it make you feel? What does it look like? What are things that stand out? What are things that you don't love? What are things that you absolutely love? These are things that are so incredibly important when you are telling the story of the property. So before ChatGPT came out, there was an amazing book called Descriptions. And that is what I use to really pull together, outside of Michael, my amazing marketing guy, pull together remarks on a home. Because the last thing that you want to do is, again, just share what everybody else can see. What is going to draw a consumer in? What type of story are you really going to be telling to them? So that's what I want you all to do. Do not, under any way, shape, or form, waste your remarks on what the home has inside of it as far as bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchen, this, that. No, I want you to tell the story. I want you to create memories for them. I want them to absolutely, they're dying to see this property after they read those remarks. It's a gift, but you all will get very, very good at it. If you're not great with verbiage, if you're not great with telling stories, what I really want you to do is I want you to literally go into Chat GPT. It's cheating, but I want you to go into Chat GPT and I want you to firstly describe who you are. My name is Chanel. I'm a realtor. I've been practicing real estate, selling real estate in the Triangle market for the last 10 years. I would love for you to, and I start writing about what I think about this house. Like I would literally brain dump everything into chat for me. And I want you to make this whimsical. I want you to make this elegant. I want you to make it sound like this. I mean, you all can have so much fun with this. That's a great way to get you started on writing your remarks, but you need to make sure that they are in your own words. Because you know when you guys can read something, when you see something on Facebook or Instagram that you know damn well was not written by the person who did it, and it just turns you off. So make it your own. That's my first one. The second tip I have is order matters when you put your photos in. I do not ever on any of your listings want you to see a picture. I don't want to see a picture of the home as the first shot, and the second shot is the front door, and the third shot is the entryway. I'm already bored. You have 6 to 7 seconds to pick up a consumer when they're going through. So I want you to put the first 4 to 5 photos that really, really stand out in that home. And sometimes it's the kitchen. Sometimes it's the owner suite. Sometimes it's the living room. Sometimes it's the screen porch. Sometimes it's the pool. And it was really hard for me to do this out of the gate because I was very orderly. I would put it in exactly like that. Picture of the front house, picture of the front door, picture of the entryway, picture of the dining room, picture of the office, going through, and I'm bored. I'm bored just telling you all that, right? Well, guess what? So is the consumer. You want to capture them. You want to capture them with the order of how you put your photos. Guys, the first question you may be asking is, what if I don't have 7 great photos of a listing? And you all know those listings. We all have had them. We're like just hoping and praying for 1 or 2, right? Then put those in. The ones that really speak are the ones that I want you to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are not on site with that professional photographer when they're taking those photos, you're doing yourself and your clients a disservice. Every single time before my professional photographer walks through, I always walk through the home at least 30 minutes to an hour before to make sure that everything is exactly the way that it needs to be. Because I'm telling you right now, you look at that photo and the pillow in the living room is just a little off on the sofa. And that's all some people can see. or there's just one thing that is off. It is your job to walk through. It's not the professional photographer's job to go through and make sure that the house is the way that it needs to be. They don't have time for that. And you don't want to distract them on making sure that that's okay. That's your job. And so I need you to go through. This happened to me once and only once. I showed up at a home with clients I'd had before, but I'd only helped them on the buyer side, and I was listing their property. I showed up 10 minutes before Dominique, my photographer, showed up. I walked in and I thought I was going to throw up. I threw up a little bit in my mouth, I'll be honest with you. I walked into this home. There were clothes everywhere. There were dishes in the sink. I mean, the husband was still in his pajamas. I'm like, Brian, what is going on right now? What is happening? And he said, Chanel, Lori's out of town. I didn't have any time to do everything. And I'm like, all right, go get changed. And I literally, with 2 big bags, I got 2 garbage bags, and I went through to every single room and I just threw every single thing I could and I just stuffed them in. And I'm vacuuming and I'm sweeping and I'm a hot mess. I have my hair up in a bun. And I was upset with myself, not with the owners, because if I would have shown up at least an hour before, if I would have set expectations with those owners in advance, if I would have made sure that everything was ready, then I wouldn't be running around like a crazy person before I walked in. Now, my photographer can create magic. I worked very, very hard to find that photographer, but he cannot work around when there's clothes all over. If there's toothpaste in the sink, like he can't work around things like that. Y'all, I was making beds. I was doing all sorts of stuff. And I swore to myself, I would never do that again, because that is poor planning. And that means that my communication is cut off. So I want you to show up. I always do 2 visits, actually. Sometimes it takes 3. You have to have that staging visit. You need to make sure that staging is in place if they're doing it themselves or if you hired somebody, and then you need to go and look at the property before it's actually shot. And for those of you who do not do your job and don't do that, then don't be surprised when you pay good money for those photographs and they're not the way that they should be. I mean, you just can't do that. So that's the other thing that I highly recommend, is just make sure that you show up in advance and you have everything ready. And Brian, bless his heart, he sent me an actual case of champagne after that. We sold that house, within a week, but I will tell you right now, I never want to go through that again. So just plan in advance so your stress levels are low and your owners are honestly out of the house if at all possible. Any questions on that? Oh, Austin, Chevron, go on.
So for our newer agents, you won't think much of photography and videography as everybody you think does it today. But if I could take you back a decade ago, houses were selling on average in our market in 6 months is what it took to sell a house. 6 months. And the number one thing that you could do back then was to show the house off with photography and videography. It's what I did to take my average from 180 days down to 14. Okay, absolutely huge. What you've seen over the last decade is everybody's starting to do stuff. Okay, you just have to take it to the next level again. The competition has caught up with you. Now it's time for you to take it to the next level. Okay, and there's details within the details that will separate the professionals. I'll say that again. There's details within the details. It's about your client experience. Not necessarily about the pictures, but how did your client feel about the pictures being taken? Did they know that you were taking care of it, or did they have to take care of it? Did you get the photos taken and Todd took your photos and the toilet seats up?
Oh,
Put that in the comments, because it's not Todd's job to put the toilet seat down. And your clients thought it was down, but then their kid stayed home late and then left. And now the picture of the master bathroom has the toilet seat up. Like, you're in charge of their experience. Get it right. You want to get 5 clients out of a listing? Get the experience right. This stuff matters.
and what I'll tell you all is that I send my clients to go get coffee or breakfast if it's in the morning. If it's during lunchtime, I go send them to get lunch and I pay for it. I don't want them in the house with me. I don't need them hovering. I don't want them there at all, because it's hard for them. It's an emotional transaction, whether they're ready to move or not. They have memories in this home. This is a place that they have raised their family, or, things have happened in this property. You don't want them around. So you need to go ahead and set up the expectations, which I didn't do with Brian and Lori. Set up the expectations to get them out of the property. And so, there are little things like in the shower, I don't want shampoo. I don't want soap. I don't want razors. I don't want to see anything in that shower. So if I have not said that to my owners in advance, guess what I'm doing? I'm putting on gloves and taking all these things that people use in a very intimate way, and I'm moving it myself. That is not how I want to spend my day. But I know that if I didn't set those expectations, or if for whatever reason it didn't happen, it needs to be done, because that's what makes the difference. Oh, don't expect others to do your job. So I always say this because I love buyer's agents, but buyer's agents get it right about 10% of the time. They don't have time, or they don't make the time to really understand and know the property. So they know that it checks enough boxes that they want to go ahead and show their clients that home, but they don't dive deep into what are the actual features and highlights of the property. I like to make a job as simple and easy as possible for buyer's agents. The best way to do that is, you'll see over here, do you hear that? These are feature cards that I create, that Michael creates with me, and we have them professionally printed. We then make sure to cut them out and we put them throughout the home. We also have some that have a QR code. Then a buyer can put their phone up to the QR code, and it's a video, me talking more in depth about that particular area. So if it's a dining room that had a very particular Italian tile that was flown in, sometimes that's not completely captured in a feature card. So I will make a video that goes into depth about where they found that tile and why they chose it and how it highlights that particular room. Or I'll talk about what you can do in a particular flex space, so people fully understand what's going on. You cannot expect a buyer's agent to capture all the beauty and the wonder of a home. If you're waiting for a buyer's agent to do that, you're going to miss the mark 9 times out of 10. You all know this, but I just want to remind you that, number one, how many homes have you all seen that actually have feature cards up on a regular basis, or that have QR codes as a part of the feature cards? I will tell you, in our market, it's very, very rare. And so what you want to do is, you're not only helping the sellers understand that you're the very best listing agent in the area, you're also agent attracting buyer's agents and saying, wow, did you see what she did? That's phenomenal. That's unbelievable. I want to work with somebody like that. You also want to make it as simple as possible for the buyer's agent to sell the home, and you want buyers to fall in love with the property. All those things. And look how simple and easy that was. And I don't want you all to put everything on a huge feature lead that's 4 pages long, a huge features list, and it's in a book somewhere in the kitchen. That doesn't serve them if it's in the kitchen and they're upstairs in the master suite looking at something. Like, it doesn't work that way. So I want you all to create those feature cards. It takes a lot more time with your sellers, but it's a much more intimate relationship with that home to ensure that you're capturing everything as you're going along. I cannot share this enough with you. You have one chance to make a first impression. One chance. How many times have you seen a listing goes live and the photos aren't put in yet? Drives me insane. Like, why would you push that button that's going out to thousands and thousands of people, millions of people around the world, that's going to syndicate like this to 450 websites, and you don't take the time to even put the photos in yet? Are you kidding me? You have one chance, one and done. So I don't care if your clients have to wait one more day because sometimes photos don't turn out the way that you want because you didn't figure out how the sun rises and sets on a home. And so you told the photographer to go out anytime that they wanted to, and you realize that they went out when the home was completely in a shadow. Well, then the photos come back and you're like, oh, good Lord. That is not at all how the property looks. You all are going to have to pony up for that. So you either pony up with effort and time and organization on the front end, or you pony up with money on the second end by having to pay for it again. So these are the little things, right? Oh, Nina's like, yep. And so I'm telling you, every single time I see how the sun rises and sets. Sometimes it's nicer to have it when the sun sets. Sometimes it's easier when the sun rises. But you need to be able to really look at all of that to see the best time to shoot the exterior as well as the interior. Sometimes they're two different times of day, friends. And that's why you need a photographer who loves you so much that they're willing to jump through those hoops for you. Yes, Nina.
I have made a photographer go back and redo the exterior of a home because I sent them there at a specific time to do the exterior first. They
Yes.
waited, and then there were shadows. And I'm like, no, I'm not covering that. You got to go back and do it again
You have to go
because
do it
I
again.
told you when I needed it for a reason.
Amen. That's it. I do not want you all to compromise the quality of the property and the vision of the property because it's going to cost you a couple $100 out, because this is your reputation. This is how you built your business. This is your name. This is your brand. This is everything. And that means that you have to have a photographer who listens to you, who hears you, and who executes things the way that they need to be executed. And if not, you ask them to go back and do it again, because you only have one chance to make that first impression. So before you push that button in your MLS or even through your office exclusives, make sure it is all right the first time. If you don't have at least one additional person looking at everything before you push that button, you need to find that person. I will give you very honest feedback every single time. So if you want to send that partial listing to me, I'm very happy to share with you my thoughts. I'm happy to share it with my marketing guy and share thoughts to him. He'll share thoughts. It's extremely important that your remarks, that your photos, that the order, that all of this is cohesive. Very important. I love my trades so much and they love me, and this is why I spoil my trades. So your photographer works with a large number of other agents in your industry. How I found my photographer, it took me 6 years to find him. I went and looked at luxury properties, and those that stood out, when I say stood out, I mean, when I saw that first 2 or 3 photos and I couldn't take my eyes away from them, they looked like pieces of art. And I looked and I found that in the 700s, the 500s, the 300s, no matter what, I would call the agent and say, hey, I love your photos. Who shot your photography? So I will personally tell you, if an agent called me and asked me that, I'd say, I would probably not share that name because I'm not a giver when it comes to things like that. But some people are crazy and they'll give that name away. So I found my photographer, my forever photographer, because I literally stalked him on all of the listings and I got his information. And so my recommendation, if you are not in love with the work that your photographer's doing, I want you to go through your multiple listing service and I need you to identify the properties that are really standing out. These are the ones that have different angles. These are the ones that just look different. They're dynamic at any price point. The ones that really, really impress me are the ones that there aren't a lot of amazing features about the property, but you're drawn to it anyway. That's magic. That's a magical photographer. And that's when you call that agent and you say, hey, I'd really love to know who your photographer is. And most of them won't think twice about giving it to you. They're nicer than I am. So that's my recommendation. I also send my photographer gifts at least twice a year. I will generally give him something for Christmas and his birthday. I do that for my measurer. I do that for my photographer. I do that for all trades that work on my homes, my stager, because when you call them and an emergency comes up, which always happens, by the way, they will always pick up my call. They will always jump through hoops for me because they know that I take care of them. Yes, Austin.
I think it'd be a fun exercise. Can you guys put in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10 how well you think your photographer, videographer does? Just be curious. I mean, we're all over the country right here. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what do they do? So we have 7s, 8s, and 10s so far. There's a 9. Thanks, Rob, for filling that gap for me. I'd like to know the difference and what you think becomes a 7, 8, 9, or 10. And I think I know why Jordan's is a 10. And Jordan Wildman, I'll save you for last. Raquel, ladies in the room, I was glad to see both of you. Do you two share? Hey, do you two share the same photographer then and videographer?
Yeah, most of the time, unless they're not.
Okay. And are both of you a 7?
Yeah. I say so.
Okay. And how long have you used that person?
It's been some years.
And why are they a 7 and not a 5?
The first thing that popped into my head was he doesn't do like nice like backdrops, like sunsets or like really in light in the photos like that. It's really just kind of a like a standard photo, if you would.
Okay, Christy, why is it a 7 and not a 9 then?
Sometimes I just don't like the angles that they shoot at. It's like, I feel like it could open up the room more, and sometimes spaces look tight. I don't know, stuff like that. I also, my newest thing is like when I see kitchen towels like over the stove, that drives me insane. That's like a new thing for me now that I just make sure to tell them ahead of time, but yeah.
Yeah. Jordan Hill, tell us why a 10. I just was trying to get some feedback for this whole community right now. Why
Yeah.
a 10?
Well, his quality is top notch. I always compare it to like luxury listings that are in the millions. So I want that kind of quality. And so, so they're perfect, hand blended, great lighting, great angles. He knows how to showcase features of the home, and he has all the extras like video. If I purchase the upgrade, video walkthroughs, drone, 3D layout, all of that. And then as a bonus, I can book online at my convenience. He's quick, great availability, good communication. So that obviously helps too.
Yeah, love it. I'm going to talk for Wildman here right now. Okay, is that okay, Wildman? I have a reason why Wildman's number was a 10 and not a 9 is because Wildman has a personal connection and relationship with his person. Okay, that's a whole deeper level. But Wildman, if I remember right, you went to Europe with your guy. Okay, so personal relationships are always the key for anything you do. Okay, if you do not have a personal relationship with somebody, I would tell you to try to have one. For those of you who have 7s, maybe even some 8s, I would ask you what your personal relationship is with them. Now, I know it's business, but like, how good is your relationship? Todd, can you tell everybody what I did for you to build our relationship? What was the first thing give us the 60 seconds? I think this is important for everybody. So for those of you who don't know, Todd Kivamaki owns Wild Video Tours. This was what he does for a living. Me and Todd had a very interesting first meeting together. He didn't know who I was, but I knew who he was. And he was coming in to serve me, and he didn't know at what level. So Todd, can you tell them kind of how that went and then what I sent you?
Well, we had a lot of interesting but good conversations, Austin. And I got a package one day that was addressed it was Amazon, it was not unexpected, but when I opened it, there was an axe. Yes, an axe, like a wood chopping axe inside the package. And it had a note explaining the axe, but yeah, we still have the axe here in the office today.
And why did I send you an axe? What did that represent?
It represented the idea of understanding what the tool is and how it is intended to be used.
So in our first meeting with me and Todd, to give you guys an idea, I told him, I go, Todd, it's like we're in the caveman days and you give me an axe, but you don't tell me how to use it. So I comb my hair with it. That's what I told him. And so I sent him an axe as a reminder to teach us how to use his tools. And so some of us who are 7s and 8s, one of the reasons why we're 7s and 8s is because we don't have a good enough relationship with that person to say, hey, can you train me better how to use this tool so I can do a better job for my clients? And so I spent $38 on that axe, and I gave him a reminder all the time to not for me, but for everybody to say, hey, you do an amazing job, but make sure you're teaching people how to use the axe so I'm not combing my hair with it. Okay, I know this might seem really weird to some of you, but we need to have a better relationship and connection with these people who provide one of the most vital things for our listings. It's one of the most vital things. Have a good relationship with them, understand them. I've been out to Todd works in another state. I drove my team out to go see his production and talk to him. Like, do you have that kind of relationship? And if you're missing that, that might help you go from a 7 or an 8 to an 8, 9, or 10 if you get it. So Chanel, back to you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the sixth tip for me to make sure listings are great is you need to be the expert. I know all of us want to please our sellers on a multitude of different levels. And I think there's a little bit of fear there for a lot of us that we don't want to upset them. We want to ensure that we're doing a good job. Some of us lack a little self-confidence, but they came to you because you're the expert. So you need to be very honest with them when you see pink rugs down in their bathrooms and you know it's not going to photograph well, or you know that it may date that particular room a little bit. You know, they came to you and they expect you to be the expert, and don't let them decide what happens and what doesn't happen. So I know this can't always be easy, but it's extremely important in order for you all to proceed forward and be the expert. Otherwise, it just goes out of control. Because once you give them that control, then they start taking it and expecting that they're in control throughout the entire transaction. I think that that's really important. Floor plans, if you all don't actually create floor plans, I highly recommend that you do it. I think this is a very small tip that is always overlooked. Outside of photographs, floor plans are the second highest requested item from consumers for all listings. So you not only want them to fall in love with the photographs, but you want them to be able to look at the floor plan and go, oh, wow, well, in the living room, grandmother's armoire can fit. And, you know, I see based on the size of the garage that we can fit the truck, we can fit the golf cart, and we can fit the Tesla. You know, the dining room, it looks like it can fit the buffet table. Like, you want them to start putting their furniture into the house. And they can't do it if you don't give them the floor plan. So for me and for Nina, what we do is we have a professional appraiser come out, measure the home, and then I have this type of floor plan created. I make sure that that is in the MLS for documents. I make sure it's one of the photos for consumers. You want them to fall in love with the house more. I always say that when a buyer books a showing on one of my listings, it's the second time they've seen the property, because they have seen it so much through the 3D Matterport, through the actual photos, and through the floor plan, that the second time is just solidifying the fact that they love the home. Yes, Nate Chevron.
So what I'm hearing just through like the first 7 tips here, like what you're trying to do, steer me if I'm thinking the right way or not, is you want them to like literally imagine themselves in the home before they go to the home.
Absolutely. Because I also want to protect my sellers as well. Guys, I will tell you, quantity is not the name of the game on a listing. It's quality. So I need one quality buyer to walk in the home. I don't need 500 consumers walking in and out and in and out and in and out. Yes, that might be a good opportunity for my agents when we're hosting open houses for them to garner additional clients. But my job as a listing agent is to get that top dollar for the property in the shortest amount of time. So I'm creating the story for the buyers before they even walk in. I don't want them to have one single question at all. So perfect example is that I was showing a property this morning to a couple in their late 70s. It was 8 o'clock in the morning before my day started. And the listing agent had not put the floor plan in. He had put, the property appraiser had measurements because we legally are on the hook for the measurements. So he had it there, but it was in property appraiser language. So, you know, instead of it being the kitchen 19.8 by 13.6, it had, you know, what's the measurement of this wall and this wall? Like, they couldn't figure it out. So I reached out to the listing agent and I said, what are the actual measurements? And he said, well, this is all I have. So it wasn't important to him. And my buyers almost didn't go and see the property. It's only because of a couple of other reasons that they went. But I'm wondering how many other potential buyers has he lost because buyers could not wrap their head around where to put their furniture if something fit. So for my clients, they've had the same furniture for 55 years. And so I said something I probably shouldn't have. When we were in the owner suite, she said, well, I have my buffet table and he has his. And I said, well, maybe one of you can get a different buffet table. And they both looked at me and you could hear a pin drop in the room. And she said, Chanel, we were given that furniture by Kevin's parents when we were married. That was 55 years ago. It either fits in this room or we find another room. And I'm like, okay. So that was really, really important to them. That's their life. That's their legacy. And so I'm telling you, having a floor plan as a part of your listing is extremely important. Rami.
Who does the floor plan for you? Who drafts the floor plan?
So there are a lot of programs that can do it for you, but I will tell you that Michael, my marketing guy, does it. I will send out to you all the program that he uses to actually plug it in and create it. He says it's simple. It's simple for him. So I'll make sure that you all have that so you can create your own, because I'm telling you, this is a part of your story to get that quality buyer to step into the door. I talked about this already a little bit, but have you ever gone to a listing appointment and they say, you know what, I need this on the market in the next 3 to 5 days? Has that ever happened to you all? I'm going to tell you that I really question when sellers come to me that way. There's always something else going on. It doesn't mean that I can't do it, but what am I going to compromise through that process in order to get it on the market? So I want you all to remember that it's not just this one listing. You are speaking to an entire world when you put your listing out there. It has your name on it. I want you all to really think about the integrity that comes along with the listing that you're putting out there. If you start compromising the measurements, the videos, the photographs, all of your people are busy, and probably on the top of your head how long it's going to take you to churn and burn that out without compromising the quality of that. So I always say that you cannot compromise it. So I know for a fact that if I absolutely have to get something on the market, it's going to take me 7 days. If I have to do it quickly. Though, as a part of my process, I need at least 2 weeks. I need 2 weeks to make sure that I do everything that I need to do in order to get it out in a timely manner, to make sure that I'm, rushing the postcards out, doing all the things that I need to do. I need at least 2 weeks. But if you have to do it in a week, you have to, but don't rush it because it compromises everything and you end up paying for it in the end. This is so important, guys, and you hear me talk about a brand a lot. Your brand is your story. Your brand is what speaks to everybody. Your brand is what's going to help you leverage your business from 10 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 80. This is what it does. So when you take a listing on, I want you to ask yourself, does it help build my brand? Now, this is not about a price point. This is about the type of people you're working with. And does it fit into your brand or not? There are multiple homes under $250,000 that I know fit my brand, but there are other ones that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. And same with a $1 to $3 million property. I just turned down a $1.6 million listing because there were so many things compromised in this property, and the sellers I did not get a good feeling about. And they ended up listing with an agent who is not like me. And I saw what they were offering the buyer's agent. I saw what the photos look like. I saw every single thing that I would do completely opposite. And I felt good about that, because I want you all to remember that when you say yes to one thing, you say no to something else. So if I would have said yes to that and compromised myself because I felt that I got that listing at that price point and was able to build something, I'm not building anything with those people. And I think it actually, can be a real deterrent to my brand and a real deterrent to my business. So I don't want you to say yes every single time an opportunity is given to you. I want you to think really, really hard if it checks your boxes. Does that make sense to everybody? And then this last one is extremely important, last but not least. I really need you all to have open communication with your clients throughout the process, from beginning to end. So when you sit down with them for the very first time, I really want you all to be able to explain to them what the process looks like. You're not going to know when that property closes. You're not going to know how many offers are going to come in, but you're going to know a timeline by which things are going to happen. The more things that you explain to your sellers on the front end, the more smoothly things go. If your sellers have to reach out to ask what's next, if your sellers have to reach out and to say, I don't understand, then you did not do your job. You're already behind. So I'm telling you, work very fluid on your communication from beginning to end, and you need to do it in a multitude of different ways. There are going to be some sellers who do nothing but watch video, and that's going to be their best way of understanding. There's going to be others who need to meet with you in person. There's going to be others who need it in a special format that they can go back and look at on a regular basis. So I want you to take the communication that you have from start to finish on your listing and the process as well as you can and create it in multiple different platforms. because that is the best way to communicate to your sellers what's going on. And then through the process, the thing that I noticed that I had to get better and better at is if a property, like Austin was saying, sits on the market for 6 months, and friends, those were days, right? That did happen. And I'm going to tell you, those are the best agents, are the ones who knew how to sell a home when you had, that many days on market. But you had to, on a regular basis, I think that Austin's was on Friday, mine was on Monday. I had my email ready to go out. I would tell them how many days on market their property had been there, how many showings to date had happened, how many properties had gone active in that neighborhood in the last week, how many showings had happened in the neighborhood. Like, I needed to communicate to them every single thing that was going on, what the interest rate was, what was going on in the county, what was going on in the city. I needed to have that email ready to go. And then I'd say, I'd send it out by 9 a.m. and I'd set up that time to speak sometime during the day about the email that I sent. Now, if they have to ask me for that information, I'm already behind. So there will be properties that may start sitting a little bit longer than before because, as you all know, we're still over 7% on interest rates. You need to be ahead of the game and communicate with them because it helps reduce their stress and it keeps you in the hero position. Austin.
Communication, believe it or not, is probably the biggest thing you can do for your listings. And some of you guys have heard me say this before, even though you might not think it has anything to do with it, it has everything to do with your listings. And I tracked my communication. I told them what my communication would be when I went into my listing appointment. For those of you who've taken our agent success program, module 8 is sellers, and we talk about communication. And the best thing I ever did, it was never Todd. It was never my negotiation. That was not the top of my marketing for my listings. What it was my communication. And I told every seller every Friday from 3 to 5 o'clock, every Friday, unless I'm gone. If I'm gone, I'll call you a week before. I will call you between 3 and 5. If I don't call you by 5, you can fire me. Imagine that. I'm going to go list your house. And I'm going to tell you, here's when you're going to hear from me every week is on Friday from 3 to 5. At the minimum, I will call you and everybody else. Think how strong this is. When you want to talk about raising your listing game, what is your communication level with your clients? Here's also the good news is when you call them every week, you can ask them if they have any more business for you.
It's true. The best
That's that one?
compliment I can always get is, Chanel, I've never had such a seamless process with somebody listing my property. And that to me means I've done my job because they've got so many things going on in their lives. The last thing that they need is additional stress of not understanding a process that like the back of your hand. You're just too lazy to share it with them because the more you share, the more accountable you have to be held to things. And so that is key, guys. That's key. And we have about 19 minutes left. I want to dive into, how to garner additional leads from your listings. Firstly, does anybody have any questions about those 10 tips?
I just want to hone in on the tip number 10 again. Put a big star, put an asterisk, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let this one go. But get this one done. All the other shit's great. That you want to take your business to another level, you tell your clients when you're going to communicate with them, and you tell them if you don't, they can fire you. Guess who's accountable then? Me.
It's true.
People love it. And by the way, they pay you more for it too. If you just tell them when you're going to call them, they'll pay you more.
But also, Austin, when you say that having that system, doesn't it make your life easier as well?
Oh my God, they don't call me on Thursday. They don't call me on Wednesday because they know I'm calling them on Friday. And then they don't call me on Saturday. They don't call me on Sunday because I talked to them on Friday. It makes my life so much easier to say, I'm going to call you on Friday. At the minimum, you'll hear from me on Friday. At the minimum. If you don't do this in your business, this is the $1 million tip today is you tell your sellers every week when you're going to call them. And then you call them on that time. It holds you accountable. And take your game to another level.
And just know, not everybody, that may not be their communication love language. When you're sitting down and you garner that listing appointment, the very first question you need to ask is, how do you wish to be communicated with? So for me, sometimes it's that only one out of the two parties wish to be communicated with. I don't love that, but sometimes that's the way it is. Sometimes it's text to make sure everybody's on the same page. Sometimes it's a phone call. Sometimes it's an email to both. You need to figure out what their communication love language is and follow that to a T. That is extremely important because how people communicate vastly differs based on age, based on race, based on all sorts of other things that we have no control over. And so that is one thing that you really need to hone in on. What works for one will not work for the other. So I have two doctors right now I'm helping out of Portland. They're doctors and they have a newborn. Like I literally text them both because getting them on the phone is impossible. So you just got to figure it out. I've got others who are in their late 70s and it's only phone call, right? So it just depends.
I want to give you guys a warning though. If you're only texting or emailing your clients, because that's what they request, you're going to lose out on hearing their voice, which is huge to understand where they're at.
I agree.
So even if you tell your doctor, hey, I want you to text me, doctor, and the doctor's telling you have cancer, they might need to call you and tell you that to figure out how are you going to take it. So serve your clients, but also watch if you don't hear their voice. I can't hear, are they talking to me loud like this? Or are they talking like, hey, everything's going to be fine? Or are they getting excited? Are they getting pissed? You gotta watch that. So
Nate.
Yeah, just to hit on this piece right here, as far as like texting, emailing, phone calls, and a lot of you know this, but when you're working with your team and when you're working with others, emails, texts, those are rational tools. Okay, only process is what you communicate there. An emotional conversation needs to be voice to voice or face to face. Do not have an emotional conversation. If it can lead to an emotional conversation, you pick up the phone. Right? Even if it's a process thing, like, hey, if I tell them this is happening, it's going to trigger them one way or another. I should probably pick up the phone to tell them this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So know that as your cue, and one for yourself, and two when you're communicating it to your team.
Last 5 years, I've seen real estate agents miss out on this because everything's going to text message. And they're losing out on the ability to be a professional and to hear their client's voice and for their clients to hear their voice too.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for my clients to hear my voice say, hey, I'm calm, you're not, calm down. Or I'm freaking out, you're not. Like we've had 75 showings and no offers. You're not freaking, I'm freaking out. Like they need to hear that. So newer generations, like 20s, 30s, even 40s, I've seen a lot of communication go to text message. Watch out. And just watch out. And I've seen the last 5 years, a lot of communication on text message. It's great to text, but just watch you're missing that voice to voice, which I can hear Chanel. I can hear what she's saying and how she's saying it, which can allow me to be a professional. So.
Nina, did you have a comment?
Just that when you were talking about setting expectations and communication, right now our market is kind of moving so quickly that even leading up to the listing or going active, I should say, I make sure that they understand, hey, you're going to hear from me probably every single day. And we're going to be talking about, how many, even although we don't really love it, but they pay attention to what's happening on Zillow. So we talk about how Zillow plays into it with likes and views, how that is then playing into how many showings we're having. Are we getting any offers? Did anything else come up in the market and so forth? So our market moves so fast that we have to have like day-to-day communication with them once we go active, because maybe we're active on a Wednesday and under contract by Friday, but that it could be unique to our area. But I make sure that they understand, like, you're going to hear from me a lot. And then after we go under contract, you're going to hear from my transaction coordinator a lot and me not as much. So they have to understand, like, I might drop back and then somebody else is going to pick up and so forth, so that they understand the cadence of all of it.
But I think you nailed it, Nina, because if you don't share that with them, then they feel like you've forgotten about them and that you don't care about them, which isn't the case at all. You're just ensuring that no ball is dropped and that everything continues to move fluidly and there's no stress involved. And, we get across the finish line. But I agree with you.
Especially because when they see how busy we are as agents, they want to know that nothing is going to get dropped. And they very much appreciate the fact that we are going to see everything that's happening.
Yep.
But your main point of communication is the coordinator who's going to take care of everything for you and make sure that this moves along smoothly. So we're still there. We're still watching. We're still communicating. But make sure you pay the most attention to this transaction coordinator, because they're your glue to making this, get to the finish line.
I agree. So 3 really quick points I'd like to make that have helped me continue to garner at least 5 additional leads that generally turn into transactions per listing. The first one is that I have a postcard strategy, I should say, that's worked really well for me. The first thing is that I don't want you all to send postcards just in the neighborhood that you have a listing coming in on. I want it as an opportunity and a touch point for your database as well. So a lot of people think, well, you know, they're not in that neighborhood. Yeah, but the people in your database need to know that you're busy and that you're doing things and the quality of your work is still there. So the first thing I need you to do is send out a just listed. The second is a seller testimonial. So once I'm under contract, I always have the seller write 2 or 3 sentences about me, how amazing the process has been, and that we're under contract. So that is not just from me. It is from somebody in their neighborhood whom they usually know. And it is coming from the seller saying, this has been a phenomenal process. I've loved living in this neighborhood. I'm going to miss you all so much. And BTW, Chanel is the best and the only agent who should be listing your home. And so that has been the second postcard that I send out, and I get more leads that way than anything else. And the third one is you're just sold. So this is your chance to really brag about yourself. You know, how many days on market, how, if it was over list, if it was multiple offers, you know, again, put in additional accolades from the seller. This is an opportunity for you to really brag on yourself and keep in touch with those people. The second thing is that I will walk myself. Let's say that my home is in the middle. I'll walk 5 to the right, 5 to the left. I'll go across the street and do the same thing. And I have a letter that I printed out. And in that letter, it says, apologies. I'll walk up and I'll knock on the door. And essentially I'll say, I just want to let you know, my name is Chanel. I'm not here to sell you anything, but I am listing your neighbor's home down the street at 123 Main Street. And I wanted to let you know that we have an open house coming up on Saturday and on Sunday. And it's going to be really busy because this house is phenomenal. And we've done a phenomenal job with marketing. And because of all the traffic, I just want to give you a gift card for $10 to go to the coffee shop during the weekend another time. Apologies in advance because we think it's going to be really busy. If somebody has blocked you in, or if somebody's parking in a way that isn't conducive to the neighborhood, just call me on this number right here and I'll take care of it right away. And also, because this home is in your neighborhood, I want you to come in an hour before the actual open house happens, and I want your feedback. Because see, the higher that we sell this home, the more it's going to impact the value of your home. And so if you'll come in and give us feedback, we'd love to hear from you and hear if there's anything that you may do differently or anything else that we might have missed, because we want to hear from you because this is your home and this is the value in your neighborhood. Guys, can I just tell you how many people
Mic drop. That was really good, Chanel. That was really good.
And yes, it's $10, 5. But I went to Starbucks, or I reached out to Starbucks, and I had my business card made with a Starbucks $10 gift card. So when I hand them my business card, it is a Starbucks gift card. And so they will use that, and they always have my information. So I do that myself. I don't send another team member to do that because that's my face-to-face. And guess who's there from 11 to 12 p.m. before the open house starts at 12 o'clock? I'm there because I'm the listing agent. I am the specialist in that neighborhood. I just went around and met all of you, and I'm there to meet you, to greet you with a smile, and to make sure that everything is done. So I will tell you all, that is the best return on investment that I've ever made. If they're not there, I leave it on the doorknob with a little bow or something. It just depends on what I have. And every single time it works so well. So I highly recommend that you do that. And then the last one, I already said it, is to be present at your open house, not for the buyer leads, but for the listing leads. For the listing leads, be present, because that's where you continue. You know, those neighbors are so nosy, y'all. They've wanted into that home for years. And so they just want to go in and they want to see that house. That is your opportunity to connect. I highly recommend. I don't practice dual agency, so I don't represent both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction. So I make sure there's another agent on site to take over those leads that come in. But I'm there to meet the sellers all day long because that's my job and that's my jam. So if you all will continuously do these things, out of the park. If there's an agent who does not want to do this work, they're missing out, and it's a great opportunity. I'm going to tell you, there's nobody in my area who does it. And so it's going to be it's going to work really well for you. For sure.
If we could, I wasn't planning on doing this, but we have an expert in the house right now, Todd Kivamaki. Todd, can I ask you a couple questions while everybody's here? And
Yeah, I'd love to.
can you first tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Todd Kivamaki, and I own a real estate media company called Wow Video Tours. This is my 20th year in business. We also own a software platform. That's what is in this corner. It's called Spiro. So we have a couple thousand photographers around the world that use our software platform to grow their business and provide these fantastic services that you all have talked about today.
So Todd, can you tell us the previous 12 months, what you've seen real estate agents around the country doing to promote their listings in 60 seconds? The previous previous 12 months?
It's been pretty consistent with this 12 months. I don't know if I'm going the direction you want, but video, we see video is really big, and it's your face is your brand. So if I'm going to market the listing, let me put my face in it. And I know some of you are like, cringe, I don't want to be in it, or my hair might not be perfect, or I might not say the right thing. We all do that. Once you get over the hump and you get comfortable being in your videos, just the audience that you can target is incredible with that.
Okay, so the last 12 months, if I hear you correctly, that we're seeing more agents in their videos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Correct,
what
yes.
do you see the next 12 months?
I believe more of that. I believe more agents in it. I think that the production of the videos are getting bigger based on the listing. We've seen some that hire models and have people come in, or they tell a story through actors. I personally just love connecting with the agent and understanding what it is. We have one agent in one of our markets that he is very comical, and he does spinoffs of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's laying on the couch saying the lines. And so he uses humor, but I think connecting back to what resonates with you as an agent, and then allowing your viewers, those buyers or sellers, or just someone who's not in the market right now, to really understand your personality, I think we'll build that connection.
So to give everybody here what I believe's happened over the last years is no one did videography 10 years ago. 5 years ago, people started doing it. I shouldn't say no one, but very few. 5 years ago, people started doing it. 3 years ago, houses started selling really fast and everybody started to do it. So I believe what's happened over the last 2 years, and Todd's been saying this to me for the last 5, is, hey, you need to be the person in the video. So now we're watching agents be the house, essentially. It's not about the house anymore. It's about the agents. Okay, it's its own thing. The market will spin again, okay? And I'm not sure where it's going, but the market will spin again. And the purpose of marketing the home is to sell the home and to sell yourself. Yeah. I've seen you got to watch which one you're selling more. You're selling yourself more, which is good for you and it's good possibly for views, but is it missing out on the home? I'm not sure on this. So Todd, looking forward the next 4 to 5 years, what do you see with photography, videography of home? Where's the market going? What can this group be doing today to prepare us for the next 3 to 5 years? Don't drop the ball.
Yeah, ideally the money is where the listing, to be the listing agent, and that's where we want to go. I'm not an agent, so we as in you all, but from that, if you don't even have a listing, I think content is king. And this is what we do. This is what I do at Spiro. This is what I do to bring more business in. But if you can create the content, I always use the verbiage or the word, the saying, they ask, you answer. So you are an expert as much as you have imposter syndrome and you don't think you know much because you're used to it every day. You know so much more than what the average consumer knows out there. I literally, 20 years ago when I was in school, I had a friend ask me like, hey, how do I go see houses? He just got married. He wanted to buy a house. He said, does it cost money to see houses? And I kind of laughed because it was information I knew at the time, but he had no clue. So my suggestion to you would be, anytime you're asked a question, write it down in your notebook. And then at some point, spend some time answering that question, even on your phone. Hey, this is Todd Kivimaki with Wow Video Tours. A question I get asked all the time is, does it cost money to see a house if I'm in the market? Well, that answer is then answer the question and then give a call to action. And you can build that content library, and that's something that will live forever and ever out there. And that will expand your audience, make SEO a lot better, and will get you more business.
Do you see in the future, last 2 years, videos have gone to agents? Do you see that pivoting in the next 2 to 5 years? Is it still going to be around agents, or is it going to go back to the properties, or is it going to be something completely different?
It's a great question. I think it'll go more to agents because we still don't see the sell-through a huge amount. of our business, we do 12,000 shoots a year. 80% of those will have at least a video, what we call cinematic video. So we push video really hard. We package it together for many reasons. Probably a fifth or less, eighth of those videos upgrade then to either be a different orientation, like a reel with them in it, just in it, like the Vanna White tour, because they, and if you're just at the Vanna White tour and you don't want to speak right now, that's fine. At least it's an entry point. And then even fewer of those individuals are actually in speaking on their video about the property, about the location, about the amenities.
Yeah. And in 5 years, what's the process going to look like in 5 years? I'm making you guess for all of us.
Yeah, I've been saying this for 20 years. I think it'll be more video. 3D has its niches. It's still an interactive program that you have to interact with it. I think it's all about content, and I think just even YouTube and these influencers today show that. I think it's going to go to more of that. And can you position your face and your brand in the right market online so that your SEO and everything lines up? And can you continue to produce content so that people find you who want to sell a house, buy a house?
Okay, a couple more questions. Nate Ammon, I'm coming to you next. I got one more. You're my coach. I have a listing. Okay. It's your listing. Okay. I'm listing your house, Todd, and you're my coach. Okay. What do you tell me that I need to do to market your home? What is my package that I'm doing?
Well, I'm a little skewed on this, so I'll try to take it from well, you want like my opinion as.
Yeah, let's start with you being my coach. Let's say I listed Nate Ammon's house and you're my coach. Yeah. What is it that you're telling me that I have to do? What's the package?
Of course, photo and video. We have to have an unbranded tour to put on the MLS, but then also you need to be in it. We need to tell the story of the home. If the owners are correct, we've had some over the years where it's been this, this architectural masterpiece. We've gotten the architect involved. We've gotten the homeowners involved. If it was positioned on the piece of property because there's, X, Y, and Z, we tell that story because again, Chanel's first point was there's a story and you're telling that story. So if you can create that emotional connection from the current sellers to the potential new buyers, and you can hit that spark, that's when you get people emotionally involved, which we all know is not great to be emotionally involved, because what are you going to do? You're going to spend more money for it. Well, if they're emotionally involved in it, the market's moving really fast. They want it. They have emotional connection. They're going to pay for it. So I would go to video because it can create emotion.
What I just heard Todd say, and Ammon, I'm coming to your question here. What I just heard Todd say is our job as real estate agents is to get the story told. If we're in it, great, but it's our job to help produce that with someone like Todd. Catch that? That ties in Chanel, that ties in what Todd says, and it provides the most value to your seller. Your job's to help coordinate that story. Ammon, you had a question, and we're going to wrap today up.
Wasn't really a question, just kind of going off of what Todd was saying and just kind of the tech in the next 5 years. 3D tours probably will become a thing. It won't necessarily help tell you a story though, but just know that that'll probably be a feature. Same with like augmented reality with like the Apple Glass and such, like that will start to become probably a thing, like with like Chanel's little little tidbits that she has in her houses. Eventually that will become like a digital format kind of thing. But that, so some of it will help you showcase the home. It may not necessarily help you tell the story of the home. So you just kind of have to see what comes and goes and realize, okay, some of this can be used. Some of this will be a passing trend.
Chanel, you want to wrap it up?
Thank you all so much. I highly recommend that you start strategically looking at the listings in your area. Look at the top listing agents. Just because of the top doesn't mean that they're the best. So I always say, look at those top listing agents, see what they're doing, see what they're not doing, and start positioning yourself now with your trades and others to become the listing king or queen in your area.